Good morning, everybody, as I jump back to the very beginning of our presentation, or afternoon or evening.
Thanks. We're happy to walk everyone through the City of Auburn's journey toward a solution for our project management and our experience with PROJILITY. We'll go over the course of that journey, starting with identifying our problem, challenges that we faced, lessons we learned along the way, and continue to learn to this day still, and a road ahead now that we've lived in the project management solution for a couple of years. A little bit about us and the City of Auburn. We're located in Eastern Alabama and probably best known nationally for Auburn University. Historically, we've been a major college town, but in the past couple of years, we've transitioned to a mid-sized city with a major college. So I'm Stephen Kranz. I've been the budget and strategic planning manager with the city for the past 4 years. And prior, I had several years of experience working in the financial analysis side of project management and defense contracting. Fun fact about myself is that despite being from Alabama and living here now, I have lived in 7 other states.
And I'm Chris Graff. I'm the Deputy CIO at the City of Auburn. I guess in that role, I'm managing a number of different teams, from the city's mapping team to solution development to enterprise system integrations. I guess I've been here for about a little over 18 years now, and having worn a lot of hats. I guess kind of a fun fact about me, I played competitive tennis for forever and ever, and then moved on, and now I've got a 12-year-old who's spanking my butt, honestly, on the tennis court, and I'm trying to grab some of those glory days. But I guess kind of thinking about that in the IT space as well, I now have a pretty amazing team that's much more sophisticated than I ever was, and so hopefully we can show off a little bit of kind of where the team has kind of surpassed where we used to be.
So the City of Auburn is rapidly growing. As we mentioned, about quickly going from a major college town to a mid-sized city. Between the 2010 and 2020 census, you can see we grew about 23,000 people, and currently we add an average about 5 people a day. With that growth came the explosion in our capital project budgeting. You can see how much our budget for capital projects jumped, especially between 2017 and 2019. We needed to invest in the expanded infrastructure to support this growth, such as roads, water, and sewer, renovate and expand facilities, increase parks, recreation fields, and all of our recreation complexes, all to meet the needs and wants of the growing community and provide quality public services. As a note, during this time of growing capacity, we did so with smart growth of city staff. Boils down to us being good stewards of taxpayer funds. We determined that a technological solution was the preferred path for our project management. At the time, we weren't just looking for a solution for then, but a solution that could grow with us in the future. The big problem we had was disconnection in our project information. I'll walk you through some of the examples of the data we monitored and where it was, the different places where it was housed. So here's a screenshot from InfoPath, which was updated by the project managers. It typically contained basic project information, status comments, sometimes construction photos, but was not available or accessed by everybody. Then we had a capital project spreadsheet. This isn't meant to be an eye test, but I wanted to show a zoomed out look at this massive manually updated spreadsheet that we did. It was maintained by the budget team. We would send out an email once a month requesting changes, and then once we got it back, we'd compile it, all the changes and updates from everybody into one spreadsheet. It tracked things like start and end dates for project phases. We tried to get the same status comments from InfoPath. And this was done on a monthly basis, but it took a couple weeks to finalize, so that by the time it was completed and sent out to city management, likely the data was already out of date. If you were looking for up-to-date project expenditures and encumbrances, you had to go to our accounting software, Munis, which is maintained by the finance team. And again, this is something that just not everyone had access to. The most accurate place to see project budgets was in the city's latest budget document. There's a partial look at our 6-year capital project outlook. Budgets are requested by project managers and city departments using PDF forms, which were then collected and compiled into this 6-year outlook. Reviewing submitted project ideas was difficult because it could be dozens of PDF files that contain data for each of the projects that the city manager needed to make her decisions and see what would be approved and slated. Another thing that's not meant to be an eye chart, but the engineering department largely maintained a master schedule for all of our projects in one Microsoft project file. This was internal to the department, so it was pretty siloed data. Because the work was done by the contractors, we typically track dates by high-level tasks such as design, construction, etc., which the dates and information is provided by the contractors. So with all that to say, this led us to the problem of stakeholders not having access to all the project information, at least easily and timely. This led to us, or the city, this led to projects being difficult to manage and report on from the city standpoint. And not being timely, it was difficult to gather all the information to assess the health of our projects and be able to make good financial decisions, again, as trying to be good stewards of the taxpayers' money. The ultimate problem wasn't that we didn't have all the data, but it was all over the place and not accessible by all the stakeholders. We realized we needed a solution that had a one-stop shop system to house all this data. The challenge then became, what did that look like? Who would be responsible for updating which data, and what would the outputs be? Then came the question of, once we would have a place with all the data, how did the right stakeholders get the right data and in a timely manner? Many of our stakeholders have access to PWA, and their roles allow them to access the information directly. Others are able to get the data in the form of reports that are sent out during capital project reviews during meetings. Jumping ahead a little bit, we have received some feedback from citizens saying that this is very helpful in knowing what's going on in the city, especially when it comes to facilities that the public will eventually end up utilizing. City departments not involved with projects directly have stated that they feel more informed and have a better understanding of the status of current projects. For example, we hold a quarterly capital project meeting review with city management, PMs, and other department representatives. We quickly went from a dysfunctional quarterly meeting where we spent majority of the time updating the actual project information to highly constructive meetings using the project information that was already in PWA and easily available to the team. Once we realized our problems and challenges, the buy-in for a project management solution was actually pretty quick and easy from everyone involved. So now I'll hand it off to Chris to talk about the implementation, lessons learned, and where we're going from here.
Thank you, Stephen. So yeah, Stephen kind of described where we were and the headaches that we were living with. I guess so how then do we overcome those? I guess a little more background. We were also, as a city, we were a Microsoft shop. So it made sense for us to look at what Microsoft technology is out there that we could apply to this problem. Microsoft Project being kind of the solution that made that sense. Though us on the IT side, we're not super experienced with it at an enterprise level. And really that's where PROJILITY came in, where us engaging them back in 2019, 2020, looking for a partner that knows Microsoft, that has experience with local government and the unique challenges that we have serving our citizens, and really someone that could come in and really kind of meld to a strategy that we were trying to take, and really that was, we needed to keep it simple. Technology is here to empower our users' processes we want to spend our time thinking about those processes and how people can do the best work they can do. We were leaning on PROJILITY to take the technology, the hurdles of the technology out of the equation. So we kind of began this journey building the solution, wanting to kind of follow the crawl, walk, run process. We didn't want, again, that technology getting in our way, being tripped up by it. So as we built this thing, it was about how do we get that bare minimum built and in place and users adopting it and enjoying it, and then actually asking for how do we make it more sophisticated. So again, PROJILITY was kind of that ability for them to take that journey with us to help us kind of honor that crawl, walk, run strategy. The way they were able to come in and describe the choices we needed to make without complicating it with the technological jargon or obstacles or hurdles that we were going to have to sort out. They were able to kind of shelter us from that, so we could, again, focus on the decisions, focus on the people and the processes. And then just kind of as an example of that, one of the things we really struggled with early on was how do we go from a project idea into an actual project? And for us, this had been a PDF form that folks fill out. It kind of gets shuffled into a bunch of cards, and staff are kind of manually looking through those and trying to make a decision, trying to build what would eventually become our CIP portfolio. Once making that CIP portfolio, then would be transitioned into a project. I think we probably had all kinds of wild ideas of how technology could make that a much more robust solution for us, but really kind of one of the things PROJILITY helped with was not just robust, but an elegant solution. And so we went with that very minimal basic workflows, but at each step kind of capturing the bare minimum pieces of information. Over time, those pieces got more and more fleshed out so that ultimately when we're building a CIP portfolio, the decision makers at the table have all the information that they need. As those decisions get made and finalized, very simple mechanisms to then roll those ideas into actual actionable projects. Then us working through actual budget cycles, we're able to see, is that solution working for us? Yes or no. If it's not, then make tweaks. And so again, crawl, walk, run, continually iterating on these ideas, refining them into the solutions that we're working with today. So kind of what we're working with, we're working with a single source, PWA, hopefully something like Project Center here. This screenshot is familiar to everybody. It is our authoritative source. It's the place that our PMs are working from, curating the data and consuming when they need kind of the raw, full, robust data set. But we recognize not all of our users need to function in this space. And like Stephen had mentioned earlier, we're using lots of reports and views of the data outside of the PWA system to really tell a story of a project, a collection of projects, or the entire portfolio. And so these reports then become kind of the narrative or the story, if you will, to the different audience. They're told in such a way that that particular audience is able to grab what they need to quickly, efficiently, and move forward. So what we're looking at here is a status report that project managers or supervisors who need to see a fair bit of the detail can come in, can look at this, can see without tunneling through all the clicks and forms and whatnot that you might have in PWA. but all that data is available in a relatively easy to consume view. Also happening here is we're integrating data from our financial system, marrying that up with the data that's in PWA, again, to give that full story to whoever that audience might be. So another kind of narrative we're telling, another story that we're telling is through these project fly sheets. These fly sheets were kind of designed on our end to be a single high-level view of any particular project. Kind of that critical content that could be publicly facing, and it really kind of coming from the perspective of this is an object, this is a story that can be embedded into other narratives. So this fly sheet might get included in updates to a board or elected officials. It might be included into a PowerPoint for a budgeting session or a project session. So again, kind of same data, it's all coming from the same source in PWA, but we're kind of tweaking that narrative, tweaking that story based off of who the audience is. So we have this fly sheet. We had intended that we were going to put this fly sheet out into on the city's website out for the public to consume. But our city manager really challenged us. How can we be more dynamic with this data? How can we engage our citizens to a more extreme degree than just kind of static PDFs of a project that are maybe updating on a monthly cycle? So we took that challenge and came up with the city's CIP website, and I'm going to challenge my technical abilities, and we're going to jump directly to it and take a live demo of this thing. So if anyone did want to check it out, it's auburnalabama.org/capital improvement projects or alabama.org/CIP for short. But what it is, it's kind of a card-based design highlighting typically construction projects, large capital projects that are going to have a very, very public impact, whether it's a new library or a new rec center or a new street. And this data being fed, again, out of PWA, it's the exact same content that was in all those reports or that the PMs have direct hands-on access to. But now, again, curating that narrative for a new audience, for the public, we try to focus on the visuals, on quick nuggets of information that's easy for that citizen to digest. And so we have active projects. We also have spaces for upcoming projects and for completed projects. These more or less give a similar look and feel, just with slightly different content as that content's available or not available. We expect users to come in here, sort based off of what fits their interests, come in, find a project, and really kind of dig into it. So I'm going to click on this Donahue campus project, and what we see, we get an overview of the project. We see how that project is related to the city's master plans. Again, all of this coming out of PWA, budget information, dates, schedules, contact information, all the way down to the project manager. For the City of Auburn, having people and faces behind the work that the city does is very important. So we do try to be forward with who a project manager is, to the extent that we've got a picture, we've got contact information. If someone wanted to call Allison and get details about this project, we want to be engaging with the public. We want them to know that we're people working for them. So we try to tell that narrative in that way. But again, just kind of using bold graphics, colors, imagery. We want to illustrate this project is early in the stage, so it's more of a concept of the project, and give that citizen an idea of how their tax dollars are being spent. As projects come further underway, those visuals transition from being kind of conceptuals to life on the ground in near real time. This photograph is probably yesterday, actually. So again, keeping people up to date, telling them the story of how we're using their taxpayer dollars, how we're benefiting the city, how we're making the city a better place. But all of this without burdening staff needing to come in here and update web pages, needing a webmaster curating this. Again, this is all content that our PMs are generating in their day-to-day operation execution of these projects. And then just through views and scripts, the data is harvested and exposed to the public in this format. So that kind of represents where we are today with PWA. We're finding a lot of success, as Stephen mentioned, when we sit down in our quarterly meetings. The conversations are no longer about how do we get all the data in front of all the right people. The conversations are how do we improve our processes, how do we manage projects better, how do we look out for upcoming obstacles or impediments, and how do we move not just our project management forward, but our process of project management forward. And so kind of talking about some of the things we're interested in, we're kind of focused on moving forward. Cash flow modeling right now, a lot of our modeling is based off of the fiscal year being the unit of time. And we undertake a CIP, and all the funds for that project are encumbered for that fiscal year, but we don't spend it all in a single instance in time. Projects are phased out. We're spending money. We're budgeting money per specific phases of that project. And so we want to be able to model that reality a little bit better. So we're looking at ways that we can integrate, again, both what we're doing in PWA, but also what we're doing on the financial side to accumulate both budget numbers and actual numbers, be able to model kind of that cash flow for a project, be able to then scale that up to multiple projects, and then ultimately with that goal of just kind of better fiscal year budgeting, better capacity planning of both staff and financial resources. So today we're kind of working on this in a very manual, singular project type way, but again, kind of that crawl, walk, run philosophy. We're looking at how we scale that up, how we leverage the data that's already in the system to do this work for us. So ultimately, our job is interpreting the data rather than putting the data together. Another project we're working on is putting these projects on the map. And so what we're looking at in front of us is a proof of concept that we're working on, where each of the icons on that map is a capital project. A user can click on that, see that same detail we were looking at on the website, or that you would be looking at in PWA. You can see it there on the map as well. There's a link in that pop-up that will then take you to the public website where you can get even more context, or vice versa from that the CIP website. You could then link to the map and get the spatial context. As someone zooms in on this map, those square icons would translate into the actual project boundaries, so people could get a really fine-grained look at what's going on and where it's going on. And then ultimately, road ahead, we're continuing to modernize our data capture, data manipulation, data massaging methods. So we're looking at how do we empower our inspectors and our project managers while they're in the field. Currently, they capture data, bring it back to the office, then input off the data in the back office into the system. We really want them doing that in the field in real time. We're looking at ways to leverage teams, to empower collaboration, greater collaboration between project managers and their resources. And yeah, just looking at the platform in general, how are we capturing data? How are we storing data? How are we retrieving data? And how can we do that better? So again, kind of living with that crawl, walk, run. I think we're probably maybe in a jogging maturity level right now. I think we're getting close to that stride where we're really running flat out. But I think what's been exciting for me from the technology space is we are at that place where it's the end users that are now coming to us asking for these enhancements. It's not us trying to push change onto project managers. It's their ideas that we're seeing bringing into practice, bringing into reality. So that brings us to the end of our piece of the conversation.